and Diaspora sponsoring our series, The Aftermath of National Elections in the United States and Africa. And we are very fortunate to have with us today three distinguished scholars who can speak to the various elements and components and dimensions of these elections. And the idea is to foster a conversation among these scholars and those who are in attendance, whereby we can examine the ways in which these developments interact and relate to one another. So I want to begin by way of, I'll just proceed in alphabetical order. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Lorrie Frasure, who's an associate professor of political science and African American studies at the University of California, Los Angeles. She serves as department vice chair for graduate studies in political science. She is also the acting director of the Ralph J. Bunche Center for African American Studies at UCLA. Dr. Frasure's research and teaching examines racial and ethnic political behavior, African American politics, women in politics, immigrant political incorporation, and state and local politics. Her current research is supported by the National Science Foundation, including the collaborative multiracial post-election public policy preferences in the United States. We also are delighted to have with us Professor Keneshia Grant, who is an associate professor of political science at Howard University. Dr. Grant is author of the book, The Great Migration and the Democratic Party, Black Voters and the Realignment of American Politics in the 20th Century, published by Temple University Press this year. The book describes Black Americans' movement into the Democratic Party in the 20th century as a function of their migration to northern cities. Dr. Grant is a regular media contributor, frequently quoted in national print news outlets and appearing on MSNBC and the Canadian Broadcast Corporation. She's a proud graduate of Florida A&M University. She earned her PhD in political science at the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. Dr. Grant lives in Washington, D.C. with her husband, Brandon Hogan, and their puppy, Nina. Last but not least, we have Professor Mai Hassan, who is an associate professor of political science at the University of Michigan. Her first book, Regime Threats and State Solutions, Bureaucratic Loyalty and Embeddedness in Kenya, was published by Cambridge University Press this year, and it examines the politicization of the public sector for social control in Kenya. Her ongoing research focuses on mobilization under autocratic repression, with a focus on Sudan's 2019 popular uprising. Her research has been published by numerous outlets, including the aforementioned Cambridge University Press, the American Journal of Political Science, and the Journal of Politics. She earned her PhD in government from Harvard University. Welcome to all of our panelists this afternoon. By agreement, what I'd like to do is to allow each panelist to take some time to present her ruminations and ideas and perspectives on what has happened in the post election period. So we can proceed in order of in alphabetical order with Dr. Frasure. Dr. Frasure, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? I can get a thumbs up for that. Okay, great. I'm going to share my screen, and if you can see the race, gender, and party politics slide. Keneshia, can you give me a hands up? Okay, a thumbs up. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to make it as large as I can here. Great. So the first thing I want to say is thank you so much. I really appreciated being involved in this panel. I've served with Keneshia before, and I'm a huge fan of Mai, so this is just such an honor. Thank you so much. I just wanted to always give a shout out and be grateful for the folks who are still serving our country as poll workers during this time, continuing with the recount, and will be continuing to serve during the Georgia runoff. So that's the first thing I want to start with, some gratitude for those who have been helping to secure our democracy despite all that's going on with the continuation of the fallout from the election. I do worry about the persistence of party polarization in our country. And I know that in my own work, I have studied the extent to which a difficult dialogue in academic circles and policy circles and in social media since 2016 ensued around the role of gender, race, class, patriarchy, sexism, and racism. And these difficult conversations have been more so in mixed company, as we say, between whites and people of color. And we know that we're continuing to feel this in the circles in our, maybe in our household and in our communities in 2016 and in 2020. I wanted to just shed a little bit of light in light of some recent polls after the 2016 and 2020 election. The election results in both cycles reinforce the long-standing presence of the gender gap. And the gender gap is the difference between men and women in support of the winning candidate. And again, in 2020, it showed an overall strong support for women voters towards the Democratic Party candidates. However, I'm here today to let you know that women are not a monolith, just as folks of color are not a monolith. I want to start using a couple slides from a election eve poll, the American election eve poll, which was a poll conducted in concert with between Latino Decisions, the African American Research Collaborative, and Asian American Decisions. And I'm not a part of this poll, although we have a huge survey that we were conducting in the beginning of December on the Collaborative Multiracial Post-Election Survey. But I appreciate the work of these scholars because they move us beyond exit poll data. And they have a representative sample of the electorate, and they give folks with the same amount of voters drawn, the sample drawn that the standard exit polls, around 15,000 respondents. But in this case, this poll is nationally representative. It's an oversample of Blacks, and it's also an oversample of battleground states. It also allowed respondents who are AAPI, who are Latinx, to take the poll in their language of choice, which is very important when we're trying to conduct culturally sensitive polls in the post-2020 election. So this just shows the spread, 70% breaking for Biden, 89% of Blacks for Biden, Asian American Pacific Islanders at 68%, American Indians at 60%, and whites at 41%. As I noted before, the longstanding presence of the gender gap narrative that more women will break for the Democratic Party candidate than men. And I'm going to try to shed a little bit of light on that in my few minutes. In this poll, it shows that 92%, 9 in 10 Black women, over 8 in 10 Black men. And again, the persistence of racial polarization in this country with 45% of white women and 38% of white men selecting the Democratic Party candidate. We also know that history should be our guide in terms of our expectations leading up to the results of the election, no matter what polls you use currently. We know that white women who voted for the Democratic Party presidential candidate between 1948 and 2016 showed that only 2 times in our nation's history have white women selected in the majority the Democratic Party candidate, and that was in 1964 and 1996. So we know that this trend of white women voting in favor of the Democratic Party candidate in the majority is not anything new. It didn't happen during the Obama administration, the first Trump administration, and not in this cycle. We also know that the long-standing narrative of African-American women being the so-called backbone of the Democratic Party, the stalwarts of the Democratic Party, is steeped in a long historical context of Black women showing up for the Democratic Party in droves. In this case, over 9 in 10 of 2020, but that's a long historical context dating back to 1952 when the American National Election Survey started to collect this data by race and gender. In 1984, we see that the American National Election Study began to collect data on Latinas. And we show a vast majority of Latinas selecting the Democratic Party candidate in the majority. And this just shows that the spread and the difference by gender. One of the things I wanted to note for the 2020 election is there's been a lot of discussion of why, we find that 14% of African American men voting for Trump. Those kinds of factors need to be explored, but not just during the presidential election, but the views of African American men, like all men of color, are not a monolith. It's a curious expectation that we're expected to all behave the same. It would be a great idea to examine the behaviors, the views, the attitudes of men of color and white men who continue to break in vast majority for the Republican Party, despite what we've all experienced in the last 3 years, that we will better understand how men and women view various public policy issues throughout the year, and not just during election time when we're looking at one or a handful of particular kinds of polls. There's great implications for race, gender, and party politics in my own research and those who have been studying this for decades. White women consistently behave politically different from women of color, particularly Black women in their vote choice. And it was great to see so many Black women and Black women's organizations, particularly grassroots organizations, demanding a seat at the table, not just during the primaries or the presidential election season, but one persistent and long-standing seat at the table. Most existing studies of gender differences in political science, particularly those in the US, are undifferentiated by race and gender. I'm hoping that that changes. Because if we fail to look at both race and gender, we will never be able to fully understand the differences among women, or men for that matter, across various geographies, socioeconomic status, or various public policy issues that matter to voters beyond the ballot box. So I just want to end with one of the articles that I wrote after the 2016 election, as I was trying to disentangle why so many white women selected Trump in 2016. And this study that I plan to update with data from the Collaborative Multiracial Post-Election Survey and the American National Election Survey, which are nationally representative samples that will be taken, drawn after in the coming weeks. We want to continue to understand the role of sexism, racial animus, partisanship, and other kinds of public policy concerns towards why there are differences by gender in the 2020 election. Thank you. And I'm going to take it off screen share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frasure. That was wonderful and generative, and I'm looking forward to being able to follow up. But at this point, we want to turn matters over to Dr. Grant.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Dr. Gomez, and to Ms. Taylor for your work to get us here today. I am going to talk to you about return migration and share my screen as well. But before I do that, I want to tell you that I'm thinking about Haitian voters in South Florida in this election. And I'm thinking about them in part because I am Haitian. My dad is Haitian and my mom is what we call African American in South Florida. And I observed over the course of the election that Haitian voters vocalized the feeling that they were not getting attention from the Democratic Party, and then saw the party attempting to do some outreach to them. That's not a part of this thing I'm about to talk about, but I did want to say that out loud, as this is a center for diasporic studies, and we think about Black people as they exist in many different places. So I'm going to share my screen as well, I think. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Cool. All right, so I want to talk to you a little bit about demographics and party strategy. I think that some of what I'm about to say might not seem earth-shattering anymore because we have kind of made our peace with some of these things. Some of us have made our peace with some of these things, but again, I want to talk about demographics and how they shape party strategy. And so the question that might be on your mind in the lead up to the kind of election that we just got through is why American presidents are interested in securing the Black vote. For those of us who are Black, we might imagine that they're interested in securing it because like we're important and we matter. But I think about this as a political scientist too, who would be wondering, or who was wondering when I first started thinking about these things as a graduate student, what the strategic plans were that were happening in the background. And so my answer is that Black migration is critical to American politics. And if we think about Black migration, we will understand more about why presidential candidates are worried about the Black vote. Presidential candidates want to win the Electoral College. And when we think about the Electoral College, we hear most often about these battleground states. The battleground states are often states that are both competitive, a place where a candidate believes they can win, and also a place where they have large Electoral College delegations. And by Electoral College delegations, I mean 15 or more votes in the Electoral College. So do you have enough votes to be substantial as a contributor to the number of votes that I need to win the Electoral College? Would be a question that the presidential candidate or campaign might ask. And so when we think about these states where there are large Electoral College delegations, not necessarily states that are super competitive. For example, California is often a state that goes Democratic. We think about some of the places that presidents might start to focus. And so again, they're thinking about these large Electoral College delegations and trying to put together enough wins in those states in order to win their election. But when we think about these Electoral College delegations, we can layer another thing on there and ask, okay, when we think about these large Electoral College counts, which of those states also have large populations of Black people? And the answer is that pretty much the same list of those states have substantial numbers of Black people living there. And so again, the question, why would presidential candidates be thinking about Black voters, I think is to do with the Electoral College delegations and to do with the fact that Black people live in many of these places where they have these large Electoral College counts. And so how do we think about Black folks getting to those places? If you've been paying attention to popular culture, you might be familiar with the 1619 Project, and we hear about Black people coming to the nation's shores as enslaved people in 1619, and some folks getting here before that too. But we also think about that happening in Virginia and in Maryland, in the middle Eastern Atlantic kind of part of the United States. But then Black folks move through a series of movements across the United States, and we most closely associate Black residents, especially during times of enslavement, with living in the South. And so many of the places that I showed you are not places that are in the South. And they're not places that are in the South because we had a tremendous migration of Black people that happened between 1915 and 1970 through the Great Migration. And so Black people move, as you see here, in streams that we talk about, where they leave Southern states and go from the Southern states to places that are either easy for them to get to because they're moving through train lines or sometimes driving, or places that their family might be living in or otherwise might be comfortable for them to go. And so again, you see here some of the streams that happen that take people from the Deep South into other places in the United States. And so I mentioned that my dad is Haitian, my mom is African American. Her story, or that part of my family story, is a story that goes from a place called Cordell, Georgia. You see Georgia there, southward into South Florida. But I'm sure that many of you who are listening, if you have some Black folks in your life or are Black yourself, you have a notion of this migration as something that's usually happening in the background. And so Black folks move in the Great Migration. They're moving again now through what I call, and I think others call, the return migration back to the South. And so the return migration back to the South takes folks from those large centers of population that we are familiar with, New York, Detroit, Chicago, LA in some instances, back to places in the South. And so they're going to Atlanta, they're going to Dallas, Houston, Miami, Washington, DC. And so as we think about this movement, in the same way, I think it was important that presidential candidates over the course of American history thought about Black voters as important because they lived in these states that had large electoral college delegations. It's now time to reshift our thinking about where Black people live. I could do a separate talk about reshifting our thinking about Black people live as something that's not entirely urban, but is also suburban or more suburban and definitely rural. But again, that's a different talk. And so I want you to think about return migration back to the South. And I want you to think about return migration as something that creates some new possibilities in American politics. And so we saw the kind of first shot of those new possibilities in 2018 when Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams both come very close to winning their gubernatorial campaigns in the states of Florida and Georgia, and potentially actually won those campaigns if we set aside the rampant voter disenfranchisement that happens in those places. All this, I think, should have us thinking about return migration in politics and suggesting to people who support the Democratic Party, and I think that the Democratic Party is on board with this, there are new strategies necessary for 2020 and beyond. And so we've talked a lot recently about Stacey Abrams' work in the state of Georgia. But again, I want to highlight that that work is just looking out into the electorate and noticing that it's possible to change the way that those states show up in politics. And so for 2020, we had Georgia that actually flipped blue. We had North Carolina that was a part of the conversation for an extended period of time that has not become a Democratic win yet, but I think might in the coming elections. And interestingly, we have Texas, which again was something that we talked about for an extended period of time as we saw that large influx of people participating who had not participated before. Florida is there. I did not forget it, but I mentioned it last because it's a bit of a weird thing. And so in some instances, it seems like it's the case that Florida can go blue, but as we saw in 2020, maybe not. Maybe it's not the case because not all the people who are turning out as new voters might turn out for the Democratic Party. And so I think the Great Migration requires new approaches to strategy for 2020 and beyond, and expect that in the years 2024, 2028 at the presidential level, that we will see more conversations about the South as no longer being a Republican stronghold, but something that is instead open to Democrats to compete in. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Grant. That was a wonderful analysis, historical approach to the politics of the country through the lens of return migration, looking forward to returning to the subject of return migration. At this moment, we want to yield the floor to Dr. Mai Hassan.
Great. Thank you so much for organizing this panel, Dr. Gomez and Ms. Taylor. I'm really appreciative of being able to be on it. I'm also honored to speak alongside Dr. Grant and Dr. Frasure. Dr. Frasure especially has been a great informal mentor of mine these past few years. So I'm going to shift to the conversation a bit and speak about elections on the continent and try to make some parallels to our recent election here in the US. And so overall, I don't have a presentation, but I wanted to make three separate points. So first, I wanted to talk about the importance of democratic norms and informal institutions. Second, given the timeliness of COVID, I want to talk about the importance and the role of COVID in elections on the continent. And third, I want to talk about how campaigns are often fought on policy versus identity lines. I think this is a theme that runs very strong in both on the continent and in the US. So first, I want to talk about the importance of democratic norms. And so Barack Obama, in his first state visit to Africa, he went to Ghana and he spoke at the Ghanaian parliament. And he famously said that Africa doesn't need strong men, but needs strong democratic institutions. And to a large extent, I think that that was the story of the late aughts and the story of the 2010s. And it made sense for him to say it back then. Africa, after democratizing and returning to multi-party elections in the 1990s, was spending the years afterwards, the 2000s, the 2010s, building up really good democratic institutions, things that we think are necessary for a democracy, independent courts, strong constitutions, really good laws, election commissions, all of that. So for instance, one study by Dr. Frasure's colleague, Professor Daniel Posner, it looks at presidential term limits. How many term limits can any one individual, how many term limits are they eligible to serve in their country? And by 2009, the vast majority of African countries had a 2-term limit on the presidency, just as we do here in the US. And in the cases where the 2 terms had been reached, the majority of presidents simply stepped down. This was back in 2009. And so what I'm trying to get at is back then it was this era of the institutionalization of political power, how rules and constitutions really constrain executives and constrain politicians. But I think if Obama were making that same state visit to Accra today, I think he'd speak differently. I think democratic institutions are not enough. While sound laws and constitutions are definitely necessary, don't get me wrong, there has to be really broad buy-in to the democratic norms and fair play by all major political elites, and especially those elites who currently hold power. And I think that's because not everything can be adjudicated in law. Laws will always be incomplete, and those who are not committed to democracy can always circumvent them. So in effect, by sticking to the letter of, they can in a sense like stick to the letter of the law, what the law actually says, but in actuality undermine the spirit of democracy. So to give you an example of that, and returning to this term limits example, we saw this recently in Cote d'Ivoire, where President Ouattara, sorry, please forgive my pronunciation, but he came to power in 2010 and he served 2 5-year terms. Historically, Cote d'Ivoire did not have term limits. So he served his 2 terms, 10 years, but then earlier this year, Cote d'Ivoire ratified a new constitution. We might think that's all great. That's really, advancing the rule of law. And this new constitution includes a 2-term limit. So President Ouattara said, well, since the law came into effect only now, well, he was still eligible to run because the law hadn't existed beforehand. And so he ran and he won. And the courts, in part appointed by appointees appointed by him, agreed. And he's currently the president, even though it was a contested vote. So in effect, if we look at Cote d'Ivoire on paper, the democracy looks stronger today than it did last year. It had put into place executive constraints. But in effect, though Ouattara is not breaking any rules, he's undermining the spirit of democracy. And I think this point is really pertinent to today. So just thinking about the recent example here in Michigan, thinking about Wayne County, which holds Detroit, which is where Detroit is seated. The board of electors there has to certify the result. And normally it's just a very pro forma thing. But 2 of the people who were on this board decided that they didn't want to certify the results because of partisan reasons. The Republicans decided that they didn't want to certify Black people's votes. And so while it's completely within their purview, it's in the law, they can do that, it's really undermining the spirit of democracy. And so I think there's definitely strong parallels there. Second, I want to talk about the role of COVID. And there's a saying in politics, that you should never let a good crisis go to waste. And I think that's exactly what many African leaders and politicians have been doing in this past year. So in the past, I've personally written about how leaders can rely on what I call a legitimating issue to increase their executive power and stymie formal constraints to their rule. And so in a sense, by appearing to the public about a truly legitimate national cause, a national issue, and effectively arguing that a strong executive hand is necessary, they can bypass a lot of formal constraints. I talked about it within the context of national security issues, terrorism and ethnic violence, but I think COVID is having this same effect. And many leaders have used COVID to bolster their re-election campaigns on the continent. Some of these leaders are doing it in a more benign way. So Ghana's having a presidential election in just a few weeks in early December. But the ruling NPP there has decided that they're going to cancel all water bills in that, it's a very hard financial time for many people. And so canceling the water bill is something that the government has under their control, giving people a little bit of a reprieve. And this is very much, giving people this benefit is very much what we know is in line with political business cycles, where governments tend to increase welfare spending, redistribution in the year leading up to an election. And so, they're kind of sort of putting their thumbs on the scale a little bit, but not so much. But other leaders have actively been using COVID in a manner to really undermine democracy in a way that is just very troubling. Most troubling, I would think, is probably in Tanzania, or most troubling recently with an election. President Magufuli there declared the country COVID-free because of the power of prayer. And because of his declaration, because he said, you know, we're out of this crisis now, he has now used his authority to restrict media outlets, for instance, that contradict his claims. So he's banned some media outlets that report on COVID by saying, well, you know, you're not telling the truth, so we're just going to get rid of you completely. In fact, one newspaper was banned from online publishing for 6 months after posting an old video of Magufuli in a fish market, seemingly touting COVID protocols. I don't have much time left, but I want to just quickly touch on this third point, which is that I think elections in all countries are thought on two levels. One, on a policy level. So what policies does a party are they advocating for? And two, on identity. And I think in African elections, this balance has almost always gone heavy on the identity side. So yes, there are, you know, different parties say they have different platforms and they try to implement different things. But in actuality, most voters end up voting on identity lines. And it's very clear to people who study African politics, that's the way elections are run. In the US, for a really long time, it was in a sense almost the opposite. So most people like to think that the US, the elections in this country are fought on policy issues. Like, do you care about social welfare, or do you care about fiscal conservatism? Do you, what are your views on immigration? And then only at the margins did people actually vote on identity. But as Lorrie showed, or Professor Frasure showed, and as many of us who are in minority communities know, it's actually been the opposite. It's just no one's wanted to say it, that many people do vote on identity. And I think something that the Trump years have made clear is really bring this out into the forefront, that identity politics is a critical part of American politics. And it's something that I think people who study America can learn a lot from about politics that scholars on the continent have been studying for years. Lastly, I want to just mention one thing. It's been really fun. It's troubling in the sense of where our democracy is going, but it's been interesting reading commentary by Africans about the US election, because normally Americans comment on Africa's elections and poo-poo on elections there. But one of my favorite ones has been African leaders of, you know, the shithole countries that our president has called them. You know, those leaders, whereas President Trump is saying that there's rigging against him, that you know, the system is unfair against him, all African leaders are probably thinking to themselves, I have all this executive power. Trump, you have this executive power. You have the whole state behind you. How on earth is there rigging against you? The whole point of being president is to rig the vote against others. Like, how incompetent could a president be to let there be rigging against him? So that's something that has been amusing me for these past few weeks. So thank you for the chance to share those comments.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. These are really excellent points. And with the permission of the panelists, I think what I would like to do is to ask a question of each of you in the reverse order, beginning with Dr. Hassan and then Dr. Grant and then Dr. Frasure. And so I want to come to this whole business of the nature of politics. That is to say, this is a negotiation over power, resources, and their distribution. And it's interesting because in the continent, as you know, there have been between from last month, October, until February, at least 10 elections either have been or are scheduled, including Benin and Central African Republic, Uganda, the Seychelles. And you did touch on a number of them. You know, and just looking at what happened recently in Guinea, latter part of October, Alpha Conde, who's 82, was elected for a third term. And he claims to have won a referendum in March that allowed him to circumvent the Constitution and stand for re-election. That election, it's as explained to the West, was largely, you know, a contest between the Malinke and the Fulani or the Halpular in that country. And then we had in Ivory Coast, as you mentioned, Ouattara at the end of October, who's 78, and had served 2 5-year terms since 2010, won election, put one of the opposition leaders, Nguessan, under arrest immediately. And we'll see what happens with Burkina Faso in November and Ghana in December. So this is the thing, in relation to what's happening in the United States. You make the point, Dr. Hassan, that democratic rules are not enough, that there has to be a buy-in into democratic norms. The assumption had been that because, quote unquote, democracy is of a certain vintage in the US, that the democratic institutions would hold, quote unquote, would hold in front of or in face of autocratic rule, the growth of autocratic rule here. But as developments seem to move in the direction, as developments in the US seem to be moving in the direction of actual norms in the continent, if you will, what are your expectations in terms of what does this say about democracy, the nature of democracy, and really the future of democracy, the efficacy of democracy? What are your thoughts about that?
Sure. Thanks for that question, Dr. Gomez. So I want to turn it back to something that the other panelists touched on. I think polarization, party polarization, is really important here. And the erasure of democratic norms is because I think many Democrats and Republicans don't see each other as just other people who have different views, but kind of think of them in like this vile sense. I mean, as a very proud Democrat, I don't know how many Republican friends I have, and in the sense, like, even though I know that this is what's so detrimental to American politics, I'm part of the problem as well. One thing, though, that I think I'm trying to put a silver lining on it, because I'm worried about the health of our democracy, and I'm worried about how one party, I think, in this country just doesn't have democratic norms. But one thing that I'm trying to put a silver lining on is, in part because the Republican vote share of Black men and Latinos went up this cycle, maybe this will cause the Republican Party to try to grab a lot more minority voters, try to increase policy positions that increase minority turnout for them, that their party is no longer an identity party based off of white nationalism, but tries to go back to what it was traditionally about social conservatism. And so I'm hopeful that, thinking about, there's in a sense, a slight chance that perhaps the Republican Party might be able to reform itself and have this broader umbrella. And if it does so, then party politics, then this polarization will no longer be based on identity, where a Republican instinct, many people from the Republican Party instinctively see a Black person are like, they're just so foreign from me, they're so different from me. And instead, just go back to talking about or thinking about people based off of their ideas only. Something I wanted to mention really quickly, you mentioned that there's so many African elections happening right now. And I don't think that's by chance. There was a dissertation by Joseph Asunka, who got his PhD actually at UCLA, in political science, and he found that when Africa democratized back in the 1990s, many African leaders actually purposefully decided to have their elections at the same time as the US, so as to, because back in the 1990s, Africa's elections weren't the most free and fair, very much like today. They wanted the US's eye to not be on them, but to be on themselves, and so that they could kind of like tip the scales without this external observation. So just a side note.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan. I'm sure we'll come back to much of this. I want to engage Dr. Grant and with a question. The logics of your observations with respect, in particular with respect to return migration, suggests that the way forward for African descendant people in the country is a kind of two-pronged approach, in that obviously there's always going to be an emphasis on the national politics, but there's a rise in the potential of regional politics, and in particular in states like Georgia, North Carolina. We didn't talk about Mike Espy's campaign in Mississippi, or Jamie Harrison's campaign in South Carolina, both of which at one point were, there was real potential. And it seems that what that underscores is that these populations in these areas have an opportunity is developing for them to exercise greater regional control. If you could comment on that, and then I want to segue to one of your initial comments, which I heard and I thought was very, very important. That is, you talked about the fact that the Democratic Party, I took your comment to mean that the Democratic Party really did not focus sufficiently upon the Haitian community in Florida. And what does that signify for you with respect to the ways in which the African descendant community in the United States is actually a series of communities, and that we need to become much more sophisticated in terms of how we approach them and engage them in the political process?
I think I'll answer the second question first, because I think that you are on the right track and think about it the same way I do. I think this should suggest that whoever is in charge of organizing a county like Dade County or Broward County, where I'm from, doesn't understand that Blackness is a large and diverse thing, that people of color are not a monolith, as Dr. Frasure said multiple times, and we can't say enough. It suggests that they believed that some things did not have to be explained. And I think if we know anything about the way that all people are participating in politics, things have to be explained. People like to feel wanted in politics and in real life or regular life, your day-to-day life. And so I think this suggests that folks looking at the data saw a large Black population in Dade County and did not recognize that population is diverse, and that Haitian Americans had the good sense to say out loud, very loudly, hey, you got this wrong. And you got like 15 minutes to figure it out, but you got it wrong. And I'd like to see it be different in the future. On the question about regional participation, my course that I teach most consistently is state and local government. So I could do a very long soapbox about regional participation here. But I will say briefly that I think the Republican Party for a very long time has done an excellent job of thinking about how to play a long game at the state and local level. And so we are here talking about the national election or the presidential election, but your day-to-day life stuff is stuff that happens at the state and local level. And the likelihood that you're going to get elected to office is probably a little better for you at the state and local level. And so it's absolutely necessary for us not just to be thinking about the electoral college and what kind of power we have in the electoral college, but to be thinking about our state legislatures and what kind of power we might exercise in our state legislatures or in our city council and these other kinds of places where I think that it'll be kind of easier for us to get involved and where we will see more immediate outputs from that involvement.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grant. Dr. Frasure, I want to ask you some questions. I really appreciate your presentation, and I want to talk with you about the implications of your presentation for the question of alliances and going forward, because the charge that you presented to us really, if anything, suggests a kind of stability in the ways in which the different demographics in the country have voted historically. And I'm wondering, what that portends for African American people as we move forward. I'm wondering what that mean, what does it mean for us? What does it mean for us when a president of this quality or lack thereof actually receives more votes than he did in 2016? He actually receives more votes. And to piggyback on what Dr. Grant alluded to, at the end of the process, state governments, by and large, are still in the hands of Republicans. The House has the Democrats in the House have lost seats, and we're still waiting to see what happens with the Senate. So we're looking at a situation, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but we're looking at a situation in which this man holds such sway over his party that other people who know better are intimidated and unwilling to speak and to address some of the preposterous actions that this man has taken to effectively attempt a coup to remain in power, if that's indeed what he's doing. But over the long haul, if he survives, it appears that he's going to be quite a factor to take into consideration. So given the stability that you present in your charts, what does this mean for Black folk with respect to developing alliances? I was reading something in preparation for our conversation. I was reading something that was published in The Guardian on the 14th of this month. And it in talking about African Americans, Hispanic, like the Hispanic Latino vote, Asian Americans, women, so forth and so on. The conclusion was that so-called minorities and women who have suffered the most in the current pandemic and economic recession seem to have, in the aggregate, shifted a little bit toward Trump. And Dr. Grant, mentioned what was happening in Miami-Dade County, and we know what took place with respect to the Latino vote along the border with Mexico in Texas. And what does this? How do we go forward? I mean, it would appear to me that that alliances are something that would be in our interest, but how do we forge alliances in the face of these kinds of trends?
Yes, I'll try to unpack. That's an excellent question, and it's something that I know that we're all ruminating on at this point. One of the things I wanted to know about the use of data that we've been in terms of exit polls is, we all use it. We want to gobble up as much information as possible. After Tuesday of the election, many of us were up all night. We're calling friends, anybody who could give us some answers, and we're trying to disentangle. And oftentimes the exit polls that come out from the news media is something that we use in the teaching and in our conversations. But I would caution everyone to, do what they can if they're in academia and they're sharing this in the policy spaces, to wait for some data that is a little bit more representative of racial and ethnic minority groups, right? And this isn't to disparage in any way exit polls that have been longstanding ways in which the American public understands national elections or local elections for that matter. However, when it comes to understanding the political behavior of persistently racially segregated neighborhoods in the United States. We cannot pretend that, that all polls are created equal, that they will sample populations in their native language if they choose to do so, if they would like to take that poll in the native language. Even if they're voters, they may be limited English proficient in terms of really understanding the nuance of the questions that are asked to them. Those many polls may be at the precinct level, but not a nationally representative view of all precincts, particularly when it comes to minority populations. And so again, as we begin to unpack exit polls in the post-election time, there will be better quality data coming out as it relates to racial and ethnic minority groups in the US. And so I just wanted to just caution a little bit that polling data from the current population survey is on the way. Data from the American National Election Survey, Journal Social Survey, a variety of other kinds of outlets that will provide hopefully a better understanding of what's going on. But I understand that we want to hold on to what we can right now to better disentangle. And this is one of the reasons why I utilize in my presentation the American Election Eve poll, because it was one of the few polls that I could find, right, that was in the run up to the election, but right the night before the election, right, that was polling folks across race and ethnicity, and actually oversampling, for example, African Americans, which is a community of interest in this election. So that's one of the things that I just wanted to note when we're trying to disentangle various racial ethnic groups, particularly the media narrative about minority voters uptick for Trump. And now I'm not suggesting that that's not happening, but we need to better understand where it's happening, right? Which states that it is happening in, and the extent to which it is happening. With regards to your question for where do we go from here with the kind of racial polarization that I noted, that other presenters noted, and that you're noting, how do we forge alliances moving forward in this post-election and what many of us believe and hope will be the post-Trump phenomenon? That is going to be a difficult haul forward. I'm not as optimistic that that Republicans at the state and local level are making an attempt to bring in minority voters. They are making an attempt to consolidate political power, right, with judges. And again, we have to pay very close attention, and we haven't been paying enough attention to the extent to which judges and state and local officials are consolidating power during since 2016, and will continue to do so. The number of judges that have been confirmed since the election and will be confirmed before the inauguration. And what does that mean for minority communities, particularly African-American communities? So these are the kinds of things that I'm paying close attention to, but I agree with Dr. Grant wholeheartedly that we cannot take our eye off the ball of what's going on at the state and local level. In terms of alliances, again, this is difficult because we all sat with the closeness of the race. And even if for someone who studies race and gender and party politics, I wasn't not surprised by the persistent racial polarization from the exit polls or pre-election polls. I was not surprised at all because I was depending on history to be our guide, not necessarily what some focus groups told us in the run-up around race and gender. So that didn't surprise me, but I was just surprised about the closeness of the race. I actually wasn't looking to Florida or Texas to pull this out for us, right? That wasn't some place that the Biden campaign put their eggs in that basket either, right? People were watching the battleground states in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio to figure out what would happen. Would there be a consolidation of the white vote in favor of Trump? And would that be enough to pull him over to provide him with a second term? Or will places with a large minority population rise to the challenge, largely based on grassroots and community organizing at the local level, largely at the hands of Black women and minority women. And we saw that it was so close, right? With those two kind of polarizing factors, whether Trump will be able to consolidate the white vote in his favor, right? And the uptick of some minority voters, or will minority voters in those battleground states, maybe who had sat out in 2012, come back to the electorate? So these are things that we're still going to be disentangling. I'm hoping that we can do so with high quality data sources that actually position African American, Latinx, AAPI, Native American voters with an understanding of these voters across geography, across various identities, because then we'll have a clear picture of how we might be able to move forward on these alliances. I'm still dismayed, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, and sorry for being a little long-winded, a little bit dismayed that we're not paying enough attention, or we're in a huge cry over an uptick in Black male voters, who are still the largest group of party supporters compared to their male counterparts, and have consistently been so. But white male voters, selecting Trump at 38% is not cause for alarm. We can look to things like, oh, partisanship. Partisanship plays a huge role in why white men remain party stalwarts for the Republican Party, or economic insecurity for white voters, rural voters, for example, as though African American voters have not been in a precarious economic situation for every election since we started collecting this data in 1948. But they still, by and large, Black men and white, and Black men and Black women support the Democratic Party candidate beyond 80% in every presidential election. So this is a conversation that needs to be had, not as a party pundit, not as a political analyst to sort of say, what do we need to do to shore up the white vote? That is not why I'm suggesting that we need to pay closer attention, scrutiny even. It is because we do need to understand the role of sexism, racism, and persistent like white supremacy. That is important as we unpack the white vote, not to better understand how it can be swayed to one party or the other, but all of the fallout in the media over 1 or 2 percentage points, even 3 percentage points for minority voters, it really clouds the extent to which white male voters play a pivotal role in the closeness of the race. And that is something that I don't see us discussing in these kinds of circles or in the media narratives.
Thank you, Dr. Frasure. And I take your point, and I will await further, more reliable data of better quality to better understand what's happening among the various demographics in the country before I form conclusions. Let me ask you a question of any of the panelists, and we do have some questions in the Q&A, but I would ask you to put on to exercise your powers of prognostication and so forth. And what is a reasonable expectation of the Biden-Harris administration over the next 4 years for people of African descent in this country? Assuming that there may be some difficulties in the Senate with or without Republican majority. The president-elect has said that he appreciates the fact that Black people have supported him, and he quote unquote has our backs. We have a Jamaican Indian vice president-elect. That's wonderful. Mr. Biden has promised to promote an African-American woman to the Supreme Court. Should he get that opportunity, that would be wonderful. You know, discussions about Susan Rice becoming the Secretary of State, whether the Senate will approve her or not is another question. So what, given that, you know, Biden is moving into some fairly serious headwinds, what should be our minimal expectations from this administration? Should we be, in addition to, you know, kind of prominent appointments to the cabinet and so forth, what should we look for in terms of policy developments and implementation, or what have you? What should be our minimal expectations of this administration? Any of you, please.
I'm gonna start and be a bit of a pessimist, so sorry. I think it's probably I don't know who the audience is, but if I was talking to my students or talking at Howard, I would probably talk about this in terms of what we ought not expect from the Biden campaign. And I think we ought not expect reparations. I think we ought not expect like sweeping criminal justice reform. And so I think those are the two things that I would have been thinking about if we had a different kind of electoral result. In terms of what I do expect that they'll do something on COVID. And I expect that the messaging about whatever happens with the relief package will be messaging that suggests that something about it is special and specific to Black people. I hope that it actually will be, but I can't say that I'm willing to like bet it all or have a strong hope about it. I think that history suggests that the party and white politicians in general, even to some Black politicians too, are just constrained in their ability to do stuff. And so somebody at the party, if not Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, is worried about what Dr. Frasure is talking about with these white voters, is not going to do the work to go figure out exactly what's in their mind or whether it's possible to undo white supremacy. And instead is going to try to, I think, run this narrow, straight kind of middle of the road. And so I think the stuff that we're getting in terms of talking about Blackness is probably most likely what's going to happen. But the other stuff I think that the president needs the Senate to do, like, you know, funding for HBCUs, I imagine that the budget might be a nice lefter leaning document than we have seen in the past, but I don't know that stuff is going to make it through our Congress. And I'm not sure that we're going to get anything that's specific to us, although I think it will be messaged as though it is specific to us. But again, as I said at the outset, I'm a bit of a pessimist.
Okay, all right. Anyone else like to respond?
And I really appreciate that that measured response, because again, if history is our guide, you know, the Democratic Party has always taken sort of particularly during the first term, and even for folks who suggest that the first 100 days is when you kind of drive through all of your policy. Now, this is contingent upon the extent to which we will be in a divided government. And I hope that when you're thinking about, Dr. Grant, of the shaping of narratives, right? If we are in the case of divided government and these two Senate races in Georgia do not go the way that we might anticipate, and we are in divided government, one of the messages from the Obama administration during the term that he was in divided government was the extent to which many voters, many of our students even, didn't understand why some policies that were not executive order or could not be by executive order were not taken up or did not pass out of Congress when it went to the Senate. And so again, this kind of information flow, I'm pretty sure, given the lessons learned, that the Biden administration is going to, if we are in divided government, do their due diligence in shaping the narrative against Mitch McConnell and Republicans about the extent to which the policies that they may put forth and that even passed through the House did not make it through the Senate. So again, narrative does matter. And where possible, I agree wholeheartedly with, with Dr. Grant that those policies that do make it, or even those that fail, will be shaped with an eye and a lens towards Black voters and the extent to which they are or will position their interests, whether they make it to whether they pass the Senate or not. I think that shaping of the narrative is going to be important.
But where does that? So I appreciate these responses, and Dr. Hassan, you're more than welcome to participate in this discussion. But I mean, where does that really leave? I mean, in terms of shouldn't we expect and I understand the challenges in that this administration may face in the Senate. I'll give Biden the benefit of the doubt, and stipulate to his sincerity, but the voting rights, this new voting rights bill, significant reform with respect to criminal justice. If we don't get down the road on some of this, within the next 4 years, this country is going to explode.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, it seems to me that these are just really, and these are important steps, but they're minimal steps, right?
We agree, right? Like I want to be clear that
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. I just wanted to note too, in terms of the some of the studies that were done in the lead up to the election about issue priorities. Okay, and here goes back to the alliance question. Now that you have 67% of the electorate is white, right? So we have a growing number of minorities who are voters in the American electorate, and that's just growing with more Latinos turning 18, more Asians turning 18 by the 2022 off-election year. But that doesn't mean that we're all in alliance with our policy perspectives as well. So you take coronavirus, discrimination and racial justice, criminal justice, jobs in the economy, the healthcare, and also other kinds of overlapping issues. There is some convergence on those issues, but there's also disparities with regards to how voters view what matters. Now, coronavirus is at the top of the list across Blacks, Latinos, Asian Americans, all groups. But then when you get down to criminal and racial justice, there is a spread. African Americans are more likely in this election poll, the data which I've been showing, of these 15,000 respondents. African Americans are the most likely group to rank that as number 2 beyond the coronavirus. And then, but jobs in the economy, Latinos are the most likely of all racial ethnic groups. In terms of healthcare, AAPI groups are more likely to list healthcare as the most important. And then the overlapping issue of police brutality and police reform, African Americans in this poll, this national poll, by race and ethnicity, 30%, a third of them were listing them as one of the top 5, but only 14% list police brutality as for Asians as the top issue, and 18% of Latinos and whites at 23% for police brutality. So what I'm saying is that with divided government or without, the Biden administration still has an uphill battle because they've done the due diligence and pulling all these groups to get out and vote. Asian Americans in historic numbers coming out to vote, right? I'm not talking about vote choice. I'm talking about getting online or mailing in your ballot. But that also means that beyond the ballot box, these groups are nowhere near a monolith. There will be some issue convergence. But we do have to understand that the more people you bring out to vote, the more people who are going to be demanding a seat at the table. And we cannot pretend that these groups are not going to be vying for their interest. And then once you start to disaggregate the Latino population by national origin group, you have various kinds of constituents who believe various things matter, and also disaggregating other groups like AAPIs that are not a monolith. And as we know, African Americans are not a monolith with regards to what they deem as issues that should be in the first 100 days. So it's not pretty. And I do believe that the Biden administration has a responsibility to make sure that you position the interests of the voters that brought him to the table. But history is not always our guide on that, because they're going to have a lot of interest, as well as trying to get us back up and going on the national stage. And I really want to hear what Mai has to say about how countries are going to receive him, and the damage that he has to undo internationally with bringing us back from where we've been in the last 3 years. So I just wanted to point out the issue priorities are not a convergence across all issue priorities for racial ethnic minority groups, who are over a third of the electorate now.
Dr. Hassan, we're coming to you, but Dr. Frasure, I 100% agree with that. I mean, this was just demonstrably shown in the state of California with the rejection of affirmative action proposition out there. So there are many ways in which these groups do not align. I do want to, so we're going to come to Dr. Hassan, but there's a hot button issue that I would like to hear you address. So Dr. Hassan, when I finish putting this out here, you can say whatever you want to say. In addition, you can also address this hot button issue. But one of the things that's in the ether, and I'm sure that you are all hearing it, engaging it, and so forth, has to do with the ways in which the politics of Black Lives Matter have either promoted or impeded this particular, the interest of the Biden team, and specifically with respect to the question of defunding the police. And there are all sorts of positions on the effect of this call, the effect that this call had on the electorate. I was just listening to Congressman Clyburn of South Carolina, who attributes Jamie Harrison's defeat to the rise of the call for defunding the police. So I would really like to hear your take on this, and but we'll begin with Dr. Hassan to speak to whatever she would like to speak to.
Sure. This conversation has been really stimulating, and a lot of things that I want to touch on. But I will. The one thing I want to touch on before this conversation ends is Black Lives Matter in Africa. And I think, a lot of people have been saying about, Black Lives Matter was great in mobilizing people for a cause and making many Americans realize the plight of so many African Americans and African American men in particular, but that maybe it was detrimental at the polls. But on the flip side, I think this movement, if we step back from America, had profound impact across the world. And many countries took the lead of America and had their own versions of Black Lives Matter. So in my native Sudan, there's a whole host of colorism there. So yes, everyone's Black, but like different shades of Black. And it was never really talked about that darker people don't get certain spots or certain positions or X or Y or Z. But hearing Black lives, or get brutalized by the police, to say the least, and by the authoritarian regime there, but Black Lives Matter in the U.S. made many Sudanese really come to terms with the way that their society is inherently colorist. And I think this is something that happened in a lot of countries, that many African countries, where you might not think that there would be Black Lives Matter movements. And so while, just kind of stepping away from what happened in America, I think Black Lives Matter movement has been incredible and been really, really important and necessary globally.
Okay, Dr. Grant or Dr. Frasure, any comments?
I'm not in South Carolina and don't have many conversations with people there, and so I hesitate to disagree with Mr. Clyburn, although I'm about to do that. I can't imagine that, given the choice of Lindsey Graham and Jamie Harrison, that you look at these two people and you say, you know what, this defund the police thing is not going to be it for me. It just seems not probable to me. And so I think that what's more likely is that people are racist and are using racist ideas to determine their votes. And so I think that's probably what's happening. I think Joe Biden has been very clear that he does not intend to defund the police. In fact, he intends to give them more money. And so I think that as we think about what this administration will do, we should expect that it'll be that, because that's what he said. But I don't, this idea that defund the police is the singular thing that sank that campaign is just difficult for me to swallow.
I wanted to note that the role of age really does play a role in these discussions. And I'm hoping that in the weeks and months and years to come, that we pay more attention to what we've been deeming the youth vote, 18 to 35, in some studies, 18 to 39, and others. But for the study that I was referring to earlier, and when you break down the vote among Black voters by age, and for many young folks, or 18 to 35 or 18 to 39-year-olds, really found problematic the views of the Biden campaign around issues of BLM, issues of defund the police, and 83% of voters 18 to 39 selected Biden. But for 40 to 60-year-olds, so-called middle age, 91% selected Biden, and he found it, again, his most loyal supporters by age of those over 60 at 95%. So again, when we're looking about not just the presidential election, but we gotta be able to shore up folks coming out to vote during the 2022 election and 2024, looking beyond this, and also groups who were not of age during the 2020 election that will be of age by the midterms. And I'm not talking about partisan choice here. I'm talking about the ability to come out to vote and whether or not you would. During such a consequential election like 2020, we had a vast number of voters who came out for the very first time. Will they stay at home in 2 years or in 4 years? And the youth vote does matter. It seems to only rear its head of importance during presidential elections. And oftentimes it's like, oh, will they come out? Will they not? Will they matter? But for Black youth, right, who are, again, have a huge social media presence, who do a lot of organizing. You look at the role of the Divine Nine and Black Greek organizations during this election. They had a huge political bullhorn and a huge political voice during this moment. So I'm just noting that age does matter, and the extent to which the policy interest of this part of the electorate will be positioned in elections to come, and the extent to which it'll matter for the Biden administration. Because many of these young folks care deeply about policing, criminal justice, and these kinds of issues. However, Biden was able to secure, like in previous years for the Democratic administrations, those who are 60 and over voting, at 95% when you do the spread for Black voters. And the last thing I wanted to say, Dr. Gomez, is that, yes, my heart was broken over the Prop 16, and the fight will continue in the state of California to better understand what happened around Proposition 16, and for future battles around affirmative action and moving forward. But I would say that I'm very proud of Dr. Shirley Weber and other folks at the state and local level who work so hard, but also scholars outside and activists outside of California who did their due diligence around that initiative. On the other hand, Measure J and other kinds of criminal justice related measures in California, which were very partisan and polarizing, for the whole state of California ended up passing. Proposition 17, for example, restored the rights to vote for formerly incarcerated. And that was historic in California. And we really didn't know how that was going to pan out. And then Measure J, which mandated counties to spend more of the city budget, less of the city budget on policing. So I'm just noting that we had a lot of wins and losses, and it is something that's, you know, and now Angelino is, we're still disentangling.
Thank you, Dr. Frasure. So this is all highly generative, and we have about 10 minutes left. We're going a little bit beyond what we were scheduled to do, but we have about 10 minutes left. We really want to conclude a hard stop at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. We have a couple of questions in the chat, and sorry, the Q&A. And so the first question is, to what extent would it be helpful as we galvanize certain demographics to vote, that part of the voter education include identifying or establishing local community-based systems for data collection and analysis? Would anyone like to take that question, respond to it?
If I may, I'll be brief. I think that we need to do a better job of collecting data on Black folks during the entire year, not just during election season. And I've said this repeatedly for the state of California in terms of us trying to better understand the electorate in California. I'm just using California as an example because that's where I reside. But although Blacks in the state of California are small relative to other minority groups, having an understanding of their policy preferences and choices, not just their vote choice at election time, is important, because we need to better understand how these groups view the services that they're getting at the state and local level, and whether or not their interests are being positioned by state and local leaders. So I agree that we need to figure out ways to collect data that is culturally sensitive, and that's just not using African Americans, you know, in one particular way or another, but we're actually doing work at the state and local level that provides information about Black voters, and that does something that makes sure that that information is then deemed useful for communities. And it's a dream to be able to collect information around the policy preferences, the needs and concerns of the African American community, but also ways in which it can have a policy impact and actually have a voice at the state and local level. So I'm hoping that we begin to do a much better job, not just during election season, but overall. The Collaborative Multiracial Post-Election Survey, which is this is now going to be its 4th cycle. And we're starting our first panel wave by examining 16 and 17-year-olds. So this is one exemplar of me trying to put my money where my mouth is that examining 16 to 17-year-olds and then creating a panel structure to go back and examine the lives and communities and views and policy positions of those 16 to 17-year-olds 2 years later, 4 years later. And we really, need to be able to collect this kind of data for those who study racial and ethnic politics in the US. If you do health data, if you're interested in sort of the health outcomes of Black folks, you have a vast variety of different kind of data sets that look at the health outcomes. If you want to study African Americans' political preferences over time, it's very difficult to find consistent panel data. And so I'm hoping that we're able to do those kinds of things. And I really appreciate that question. And it needs to be done across all racial and ethnic minority groups, and hopefully from a nationally representative viewpoint.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frasure, for responding to that question. And that question was from Lindiwe Jangira. And the next question is from Alisa Rashid. How should African Americans push American foreign policy as it relates to African countries? that does not reinforce negative African leadership? Dr. Hassan.
Yeah, I will take that. I think that's a really interesting question. I've normally thought about this as what can America do towards Africa and African policy, but it's interesting to talk about how what African Americans and Black people in the U.S. can do to push leadership in our country to do better. And I think that's a really interesting question, and thinking about how to mobilize for better policy decisions. And I think one thing that might be important is making sure that our Secretary of State, our representative to the UN, those types of positions are really committed to African democracy, and making sure that they see that they aren't giving any leaders a free pass in exchange for like natural resources or in exchange for regional stability or something like that. It's interesting, Professor Gomez, that you talked about Susan Rice's potential confirmation as Secretary of State, because I think a lot of political scientists who focus on Africa would be actually quite worried about her confirmation. Her track record with some African big men is not what we would like to see. And so, we'd really like a Secretary of State who's actually going to say, Ghana is doing really well. Rwanda is not our friend. Paul Kagame is not our friend. Or Museveni, who right now is overseeing the opposition leaders being arrested and the largest protests in years there. That Museveni is not our friend, and actually calling them out on it. But the role of African Americans in pushing for that, I think that's a really interesting question, Aisha. And if you have suggestions, I'd love to know about it, because I feel I personally want America to be more involved in Africa in promoting good governance, even though we don't have it here. And so I'd really be curious as to ways other people think that this might happen.
Well, we're kind of pushing we're kind of at the end of our discussion. What I would say very quickly, Dr. Hassan, is that I do appreciate Elisa Rashid's question as well, because it does point to interest in the continent. So we don't. Looks like we were temporarily shut down. But I want to hasten to thank Dr. Frasure, Dr. Grant, Dr. Hassan for your participation in this discussion. It was lively. It was interesting. I learned a lot. I'm sure that everyone who is in the audience learned a lot as well. So thank you so much for your contribution. And I hope that we can stay, in touch in some way. And I look forward to your efforts and scholarship and contributions as they continue to unfold and develop. So thank you so much. I want to thank the audience for your attendance. And this concludes our session for today. Thank you.